Welcome, global viewers, to another MonetizeMore webinar. We are tackling the shift to AI optimization, how publishers win visibility and maximize revenue. I'm Arjul from the Business Enablement team, and I'm pumped to be your host. We've prepared yet another incredibly exciting session for you. And because previously we talked about how 2026 being the year of AI, and today we're diving deep into what that actually looks like from your bottom line. AdTech has officially transitioned from search economy competing for clicks, now to the answer economy. AI platforms are no longer just finding your content. They are consuming it. They decide what the user sees and who the user trusts. And so, for perhaps many of you, this pain point is hitting close to home. We are now entering a zero-click environment where AI engines are intercepting discovery. Now consider these stakes. 40% of Google queries now happen within AI-powered experiences. 93% of those queries never actually result in a click to a publisher site. Click-through rates are being cut in half, dropping from 15% down to 8%. It all seems glum, but don't fret. There is a massive silver lining. Volume may be down, but value is up, up, up. When your content is cited in an AI answer, that traffic converts at 23 times the rate of traditional search. We aren't just looking for traffic, we are looking for high intent visibility. Now, I know you're all eager to bridge this gap, so let's make this interactive. Before we meet our experts, and you can see them on the screen, I'd like for you guys to hit the chat right now. Tell us your city, your country, post your website, and at least 2 topics from your site that is best known for. So let's see who's in the room. So I'd like for everyone, you guys, please flood the chat. There's a big secret that we'll do in the middle of our presentation. So it's important that you engage us and post the details. Again, tell us your city, your country, your website, and 2 topics your site is best known for. All right. So to show us how to win this new game, I'm thrilled to introduce our incredible leaders in publisher monetization and AI discovery. First up, we have no other than Suzanne Sperling. She's the founder of Answery.ai with over 15 years of expertise in ad tech and digital media. While most publishers are playing defense and blocking crawlers, Suzanne finds the opportunity. She'll show you how to use citation architecture to make your content machine readable with high authority. Next, we have Kian Graham on the second part of our webinar. He is the founder and CEO of MonetizeMore with over 16 years in the trenches, supporting publishers across 40 plus countries. Kian is a master of programmatic efficiency. He is famously passionate about ad tech, AI, and for the fans in the room, everything Star Wars. Kian is here to explain why user RPM is your key survival metric and the big 3 strategic bets that separate publishers who are simply surviving from those who are built to scale. Everyone, let's use those emojis and let's give a warm welcome to Suzanne.
Thank you. All right. Yeah. So, hi, my name is Susanne, and I started Answery AI last year because I found myself needing such a tool. I work daily as a consultant with online publishers, and I was trying to help them figure out like what happened to their traffic. Seeing the shift from Google Discover and what has happened with the volatility and where did it go? I started thinking about like what happens when AI becomes the answer, and how can I best support publishers in understanding how to be the answer when we're searching for this. But I found out that in order to do that, I needed to make my own tool. So I could keep track on the progress that I made on the website I'm working on. And also I made my own website as a live experiment as to see like how much impact can I actually do by just following the rules, so to speak, following what AI is asking for me. So what we're talking about here today is like the move from search economy to the answer economy. We're talking about how AI controls the discovery when you're Googling something or searching for something. And also talking about the fact that you are visible in the AI overviews do not necessarily give you traffic. And last but not least, that traffic is not guaranteed revenue anymore. There are browsers out there that blocks the ads. I use Perplexity myself for a lot of things, and the Comet browser actually blocks the ads. So what I want to address on this session is what you can be doing in order to optimize as best as you can for the new situation that we're in. Next slide, please. So if we just start to look about some of the numbers that we're seeing right now is that 60% of all the search you have zero-click search. And what that means is when someone is searching, whether it's in Google, ChatGPT, or Gemini, 60% gets the answers in the overview and don't click to the website. What we also see that correlates fine with you have a 357% AI referral growth. What that means is that year over year, we have an increased amount of traffic coming from ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude or Gemini, what you're using, right? So the traffic that they're sending to publishers is increasing. And I mean, like that is good, but that also says more about like how often we're actually searching and using the LLMs instead of Googling. What we do see is that if you are searching for something in ChatGPT and there's a website coming up having the answer to what you're looking for, and you do click on that, then the conversion, or when you land on the website, you have a 5 times higher conversion, whether that is to sign up for newsletter or whatever it is that you want the user to be doing, which makes kind of make a lot of sense, since if you have a choice and you get an overview and then you actually click, you have an intention behind what you do. You are more curious as to what the website is showing you. So you know, for traffic is not so much as a numbers game anymore. It's more about like what you use with the traffic that, or the people, the users that comes on your website. How are they acting different in what you're seeing before? The main problem that I see right now is the revenue, and what they're saying. AI is from AIB. They're saying at the moment we're looking into a 2 billion annual revenue loss, and I think that is what we should be talking about the most. Is what is actually happening for online publishing right now, because if no one clicks on your website, you're not getting the ads, right? And I think that is the biggest problem we should be addressing. So what we can do in order at least to start improving on that situation is what we call at Answer, like how to become AI ready. And what I mean by that is we advise publishers to start building structure that is machine readable content. And what that means in like in an easy way to understand is like for a long time we've been like making content for humans, which makes sense. We're in online publishing, we create good articles, we have beautiful websites, and we optimize for every pixel, where to put this ad, where to put this article, and so on, right? And we're really good at that. But the thing is that it's not really human necessarily reading it anymore. It is AI robots. So you need to start optimizing your content to be for AI robots, for humans and for AI robots. And AI robots lack structured data. So you can kind of picture like you are a robot and you're looking from behind. You're like, what am I looking at? What sort of content is that? And the structured data is exactly that. You can use the schema.org and go hand in hand with the JSON LD or link data to show the computer exactly what it is that your article is about. Who is the author of this? Why is this important? What is the topic? What date is it published? When did you renew it last time? There's all these sort of signals that you can be sending. A lot of publishers are sending some, but you could be sending like, this is schema.org, right? You can be sending like, this is a news article. That is fine, but that is just like, this is a news article. You could send, this is a news article. This is what it's about. This is who wrote it. This is why this is important. There's a lot of more things you can be sending in your data. And I think that is where we start. That's what we work with here. I think that is one of the most important things, so you can be understood by the AI engines. Then the next thing you should start looking at is focus on topical authority. And what does that mean? That means that the AI agent is looking for someone with the authority to give the answer. So if you just wrote one article about some subject, then if the AI agent is sort of like, oh, I'm looking for content, this guy has written one article about this one over here has written 40, the authority lies with the 40, lies in the volume, because it's like, oh, you've written a lot about this, you know a lot about that, so I'm going to cite this person, right? So you need to start looking at the content that you're making and producing and making sure that you're covering in the way that you want to. It's not just about, of course, just producing a lot of it, but it's just about being in depth and making sure that you show that you have the knowledge on this. And then the last part is sort of, for me, a bit difficult, but also very important. Optimize for citation and not for ranking. And what I mean by that is, like, you need to be the answer. So if someone is Googling or searching in ChatGPT or Perplexity or something like that, and they're searching for an answer, then your article needs to answer that. So if you're a weather site and someone's saying, like, what's the weather going to be tomorrow, and all you have is articles saying forecast, then you're not going to be cited. You should have an article saying the weather tomorrow should be like, because then there is a match between the question and the answer, and you can be found and be like, they know what they're talking about. They have written this every day. Tomorrow the weather is like that. And then there's a match, right? That is what we call optimization for citation. So those three things is what I would start working on if I were to look when I get a publisher and start working on that, right? And then what we talk to publishers about mostly is more like, there's a difference between being crawlable. This is what we call crawlable, that the AI agent can understand your content, compared to being citable. But to start with, in order to be citable, you need to be crawlable. So these are the things you need to do in order to be crawlable. And if we move to the next slide, I have taken a look into around 4,300 publishers over the world to see sort of like, how are the world, or how are different markets treating this? How are people addressing this change all over the world, to see if there's patterns I can see. Are there difference in Europe or in US or the APAC, something like that, right? I've done this study and I looked at around 40 different topics, whether you have robots.txt, whether you had JSON LD, whether, what your schema looks like. I have a different list. But what I found most interesting was starting to look at robots.txt, because that is something that should be familiar to a lot of publishers. And one who has lms.txt. And what we found, if you look at the right side, is the defense mechanism from a lot of the European countries and also the US and the UK. And basically what they're saying, like, no robots are allowed to look at my content. And I understand that from the point of view that you want to protect your data. You want to have, you don't want to give away all your content for free, right? But it's also, how can you say it, like a very defensive position, because what happens right now is that when you don't allow any AI robots to crawl your website, is that you're no longer the answer. So if I'm Danish, so if I'm looking for the Danish news and I ask ChatGPT and no Danish major newspapers are showing up, I'm still getting like an answer to my question. It's just not for the major publishers that I am expecting to give me the answer. It could more likely be from the left-hand side here over the green area, from New Zealand, from Turkey, from Portugal, or from Brazil, or Estonia, because they have treated this AI crawling policy completely different. they're betting on it. They want to compete. They want to be the answer. So they have opened their doors to the AI bots, and they have told them exactly who they are, what they're doing, and what AI bots can be expecting from their side on. And for me, it's very interesting because like they will be the answer when we're searched tomorrow. Check it out. Publishers from these part of the world, they will be the answers, and the people who are on the defense mechanism are not the answer. And I think that is something that we need to be talking a lot more about, the consequences of what this mean for publishers, right? And I think there's a lot of conversation that should be had. And if you're a publisher and watching this, you should probably go back and think about like, not so much maybe should we have an open or closed politics on AI robots, but more like what is our strategy? If we're closed, why are we closed, and how will we get traffic in the future? If we're open, how are we open, and what will we allow to start having those sort of conversation? And then next slide, please. So just to sum up what we saw on the left-hand side of the chart with all the green ones, this is what they have been doing and what you could be doing if you want to optimize for the AI visibility, is make the data structures. And then you have this called the LMS.txt. What that is a new standard. And I think I've only seen it in around like 5% of all the publishers that I looked at. But it's not robot.txt because that was for the robots. These are for the large language models. This is a manual that's showing like you are allowed here, but this is where you can this is where you can cite us. You can use these articles. It's sort of like a menu card to the AI agents and showing them what your site is all about. And what is really, really clear, what we saw on the previous slide, is that all the green countries, Brazil and New Zealand, all them, they all implemented LMS, or a large proportion of their publishers have implemented LMS, and that's what makes them citable. That's make them crawlable. It's really easy for the AI agents to understand what their site's about. So I would do that, and then I would work on my citation, making sure that you are the answer. I think that is what I would start to do, and then next layer would be a governance at some point soon, because a lot of policies are coming in, and you need to start working on AI policy as well, and making sure that your website is living up to the new regulatories that are being rolled out this year. Yeah, I think that is it for me now in terms of how to optimize for AI visibility.
Started with your piece of today's presentation, Ian.
Yep. Sounds good. And by the way, just to let the audience know, Susan went through a scan of MonetizeMore.com, and she showed like all the details, all the things that we can do. And I was floored, right? It was super fascinating. It had a huge wealth of information, and it was very practical. So it was really interesting, valuable for us taking that next step for AIO. And it's the same thing for each one of your sites. If you want to get more AI citations, she'll be able to provide a wealth of practical use cases, tips of how to get more visibility from the different LLMs.
Thanks, Ken. Before I bring it back to you, I'd like to remind our viewers and attendees that when you go ahead and book that session with us, we have your information and we'll immediately send you the free scan. It's on the house. It's on us, especially for our attendees today. Back to you, Kian.
Awesome. It's a great offer. Arjun, could you share your screen so we can get the slides again?
Absolutely. Here we go.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So really interesting stuff on the AIO side. The paradigm has changed, right? We cannot solely be dependent on search engine traffic, right? It's slowly decreasing, as Susan has showed, those zero-click searches due to AI overviews, due to less people using search engines. More people are using LLMs, and that trend will continue. And as a result, we need to change, right? This is a whole new world dominated by AI, and this is just the beginning. So I'm going to be going over 3 different things for publishers, especially ad monetized publishers, to focus on, right? The first one is retention. The next one is own your audience. And the last one is traffic quality management. Next slide, please. Oh, Arjo, are you there? Okay, thank you. All right, for the first one is retention, right? It's important to optimize for retention, not just quick revenue. Those days where you can just rely on search engines, get traffic day in, day out, and have a very profitable business because you get so much search engine traffic, and you know, in the old days, you can rely on that search engine traffic, even growing organically. The times have changed, right? And now what's important to kind of like not just survive within this new publisher ecosystem, but to thrive, is to start building in retention into your business model, right? And start thinking about the lifetime of your users, right? And start measuring for that lifetime user value. And the way to do that, right? Because for ad monetized publishers, a lot of you have been optimizing for CPM, otherwise known as ad RPM, right? That revenue per 1,000 ad impressions. And then the even more optimal way would be via session RPM, so that revenue per 1,000 sessions. So optimizing for that full session, maximizing how long a user is within the session. But now we have a new paradigm, right? And we're optimizing for retention. So that brings towards the even more important metric of the future, which is user RPM. That's revenue per 1,000 users, right? And that measures the full lifetime of the users. So if you are optimizing for retention, you're giving the users a reason to go back to your website, then you are growing your user RPM, right? So this requires like a different mindset shift of turning visitors into regular users, building a community, giving them reasons for them to come back. Next slide, please. So that brings me to the next step, which is that audience ownership, right? Because if you can combine that with retention, that is how you can grow within this new paradigm, right? And part of this is diversifying your traffic sources. And one of the biggest opportunities, especially for publishers that have been dependent on search engines, is to diversify towards paid advertising, right? Because while search engines have been decreasing in traffic, the social media platforms have been increasing in traffic, right? So you can actually purchase that traffic, and from big platforms like Meta, TikTok, X, LinkedIn, whichever one is a better fit for your type of website, your vertical, your audience, right? And if you are able to really get good at optimizing for user RPM, you're giving your users a reason to come back to your website, then you can do really well with buying traffic, because then you have, say, lifetime users or users that are going to be coming back, right? So if you optimize for that CPM, the cost per 1,000 clicks that you're buying from, and you compare that to your user RPM, if your user RPM is higher than your CPM that you're buying, then you're profiting on it, right? And the longer the lifetime of the user is with your site, the easier it is to profit on top of that. So this is like the new type of business model that you can introduce. You can diversify your traffic sources so that you're less dependent on search engines. The next one is to build in those retention loops. So I mentioned giving reasons for users to come back to your site. And some of those examples that you can incorporate into your site is having a newsletter, right? Asking for their contact information and providing that nurturing content for them to, get that useful value on the email newsletter, and then give them reasons to come back to your site, right? Give them summaries to then come back to your site. But you can also get phone numbers, right? You can provide content via, say, WhatsApp or SMS. There's also push notifications, right? So that whenever you get some new content that's relevant to what they're interested in, you push them back on the site with notifications on their browser. There's also, you can create quizzes, right, where you ask them questions and then you give them a score or something, an interesting outcome that you can deliver to them via email, and then you can create email nurture campaigns after that. Those are ways to drive engagement and get users back to your site, right? We've also seen offer walls work really well in coordination with quizzes. We've seen publishers do really well to bring users back to their sites and thrive despite search engine traffic slowly dying out. And then the last one is owning first-party data, right? So first-party data allows you to grow your RPMs because you're essentially enriching the data that you're providing to advertisers. And this could be through the open marketplace, right? But it also can be for direct advertisers. If you are able to provide more first-party data, and for those of you who don't know, first-party data is data collected on your website, right? So if you're collecting emails, that could be first-party data. If you have a login section of your site and they can put a profile and your users can put certain things about themselves, that can be first-party data. And if you provide the pipes so that you can provide it to your advertisers, then that gives them more reasons to bid on your site, to bid higher on your site, so that you increase your RPMs and you give direct advertisers more of a reason to go to your site and advertise directly. And that's where you really unlock the premium RPMs, right? These are all things that you can also increase your user RPMs because you're optimizing on the ad revenue side. So those are some pieces to really own your audience. And if you can couple that with retention, you can grow in this new paradigm and really thrive. Next slide, please. And then the last one is traffic quality management, because the reality of today is anybody who has access to an LLM can create bot traffic, right? It used to be just developers who had the technical skills to do that. Now it's anybody who has access to the internet. They can create bot traffic. And there's already a lot of organic bot traffic that swims through the internet, replicating human behavior, right? There's good bots and there's bad bots. The good bots are, the bots from, say, LLMs or search engines. And then there's the bad bots who replicate human behavior. And in the sphere of ad monetized publishers, some of them are built to view ads and click on ads, right? And people have different reasons to create these bad bots. Some of them, they use it on their own sites to inflate their Google AdSense revenues. And we definitely don't recommend that because you will get banned and terminated and all your unpaid ad revenues will essentially disappear, right? Google is the best of the world at detecting invalid traffic, otherwise known as bot traffic or non-genuine traffic that isn't clicking on ads in a genuine way, right? So, but then there are risks where there are competitors where they can create bot traffic. They can send it to their competing content sites, right? If they don't like that, one of their competitors is ranking higher than them on search engines or getting more visibility on one of the LLMs, they can create bot traffic. They could send it to their competitors, get them banned by Google or some of the other ad networks. And this can happen overnight. You lose all your unpaid ad revenues. You don't have access to Google again. And this is how some competitors, we've seen it happen, right? We've seen publishers with accounts that were over 10 years old. They never had any policy violations. And then their account was terminated because they had a bot traffic attack. And we've seen these bot traffic levels, the proportion of bot traffic versus human traffic on the internet, it's unfortunately growing because it's so easy. It's cheaper. It's easier to create bot traffic than ever. So it used to be the case where you can get away with not having a traffic quality management strategy, but that is not a reality today, and it's becoming even more risky to not run an invalid traffic solution, right? An invalid traffic solution is technology that proactively detects and blocks bot traffic, right? So it's important to actually protect your site so that you can you can protect from these Google terminations, right? These policy violations, these revenue clawbacks that can risk your business. We've seen businesses go out of business overnight because of this. So we don't want to see that happen again. That's why we created Traffic Cop in 2019 and have been iterating it ever since then to become more sophisticated at detecting the most sophisticated invalid traffic on the planet. And it's a real arms race, because with LLMs, now the invalid traffic is becoming more sophisticated and closer to human behavior. So we've really invested in it for specifically this use case, to protect ad monetized publishers, to protect their Google accounts from terminations, from revenue clawback, from policy violations, so that your account stays safe. But also it's an investment in your ad inventory, so that you can make sure that when the advertisers are bidding on your ad inventory, that they are confident and that they're getting human users that they're paying for those clicks, for those views, right? So then they're more likely to bid more on your ad inventory, and to continue to bid on your ad inventory, to whitelist it, and even start buying directly, right? Because now within the demand side platforms, advertisers can see your invalid traffic levels, right? This is becoming more common. So if you're not running an invalid traffic solution, the advertisers will eventually stop buying, because it just takes one bot traffic attack, which is becoming more common, for advertisers to stop buying on your ad inventory, right? They can blacklist it on all the different buying platforms very easily. And that data, the invalid traffic data, is becoming readily available. So I implore you to check the different invalid traffic solutions, right? To come up with a strategy at the very least, and to be aware of this, because this is becoming a bigger threat as LLMs become more widely available and more popular. All right. On to you, Arjul.
Proceed to our live Q&A, because we have a couple of questions from some of the folks on the chat. Let me read a couple of them. And I think we have one from, I apologize if I butcher your name. I'm not really good with the pronunciation, but we have a comment from Parath earlier, and they ask, I think LLMs are not required, as Google said it multiple times. I was able to provide a response, but I'd like to hear Kian and Suzanne's thoughts on it.
On which LLM question?
So I think this was around Suzanne's presentation of having the LLM.txt, the new one, Suzanne. Perhaps you can enlighten around that.
Sure. I mean, no, they're not standard, and you don't have to have them. And if I was Google, why would I promote large model language .txt like that in a different way? Like, Google wants to stay within Google. But what we do see is that it is easier for the AI agents or the AI bots, if you want to speak, to understand what your content is about, right? So it's not so much about whether it's required or not. It's more about, like, how do you want to show up? How do you want to be understood? And I'm not saying that the LLMs.txt is what's going to be here in 10 years and 5 years. This is emerging. This is a new world that we're in right now. But this is one way of trying to deal with, just as we have ads.txt, and that has been widely adapted all over the world, right? So you don't have to have it. I would highly recommend it. You can also do AI.txt, is something that I've seen people are doing. It has the same focus. But what it does is show the LLMs what you do on your site and why they should be looking at your website. So for me, I would definitely do it.
How has your experience been on that side, Kian, in having that information available on the back end? Again, it's funny that I'm realizing how we're somehow going back to how the web started with your SEOs and the basics, but it's a different ante this time around. It's a different level. It's no longer humans, but it's now bots leading the charge and taking the charge and making sure that they tag the right information with high authority. What has your experience been on that, Kian?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to have a LLMs.txt or AI.txt to make sure that's implemented and make that decision, right? Because not every publisher will want to make it accessible to LLMs. Like I realized that it's kind of like a philosophical call, right? It is a source of traffic. It's also LLMs are one of the reasons why search engine traffic is, or the big reason why search engine traffic is kind of dropping. But this is kind of like the new wave. But at the very least, I think it's important to have one and make that hard decision of if you're going to block LLMs to use that tool. And if not, to open it up and make it as easy as possible for LLMs to scan your site, to cite it, and eventually provide like really valuable traffic to your site as well. That's really key. And just in terms of my experience, like this is just one of the things where our market has changed and changed in a big way. And it's up to us as publishers to keep up with it, right? To stay ahead of the curve and to be intentional with some of those decisions so that you can do what's best for your business, for your audience, and your future users.
Thanks, Kian. We actually have a very great comment from Patrick. He says, easy to say, selling premium first-party data, retentions while Google requires traffic, ghosting site, monetization via hard policy rules. Also continues to comment, still a hard sell for most part of the world. Do you have additional insights on this comment from Patrick Enriquez?
Yeah, it's not easy how in this new world with dealing with Google policy, right? It's convoluted. If you look at the terms and conditions, it's crazy long. It's hard to read. It's hard to understand, and that's why these using technology to help you out is the best way to go, right? It's hard to kind of like do it on your own, and the best way to handle it is proactively, right? Because you can't, if you have a content team, if your site is always changing, there's new content coming up all the time, and Google policy changes as well. So it's hard to keep up, and it's better to use technology to understand or to protect your site from policy violations, revenue clawbacks, terminations. So I do kind of sympathize with you, Patrick, and I recommend to as part of your traffic quality management strategy and overall compliance strategy is to be aware of the tools that are available, or for some publishers, they have resources to build their own in-house tools customized to your operations and setup. But yeah, highly recommend to have that proactive strategy to manage those policies, to keep your site as clean as possible, to protect your ad revenue accounts, and to create an ecosystem within your ad inventory that is very valuable for advertisers.
Thanks for your answer, Kian. I'd like to remind everyone again to book a session through the link that is on the chat, and we will send you your free reading and domain scan, plus your one-on-one consultation with our team. We have a very interesting question from Isana. Isana asks, okay, so genuine question. I searched something yesterday that we literally ranked number 2 for on Google, and ChatGPT just answered it without mentioning us at all. Like, what do we even do with that? Let's start with Kian first, and then we'll proceed with Suzanne's insights.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think what Suzanne talked about with how to structure content on your site. You can structure in a way where you actually do get cited, and I think following that structure is going to increase the chances that you're going to get cited. I don't think you get cited all the time. That's just a reality of LLMs. But you can set yourself in a way, if you structure data properly, that you can get cited from those type of sites, or from each one of the LLMs.
Thanks, Kian. Your thoughts, Suzanne?
Yeah, I think like that is just like the hardest thing ever, because this is so true for so many. You spend all your time and now you're number two, and now the world just changed, right? So what do you do? And I think just what Kian said, like, um, do those things that we're talking about there. Look at your website. What are you allowing? How are you looking? Try to check like on the crawler glasses. What do a crawler see when it finds your website, right? And try to understand that a little bit better. And I think like if I were to do something, I would like myself, and without asking me or something, set a baseline. So ask some questions. Take 6 different LMs. Ask them questions every day. Write 20, 30 questions, and just be like, where you want to be the answer, right? So ask it, what does it find? Who is deciding? Go look at those website. What is it doing? And look at your own again, right? And then and take steps. Do the MS, make this your data, and monetize it, or monitoring it, so to speak. I think I would start with doing that. But what you're seeing is real. I think it's so true for so many people that are not aware this is. And also one more thing that I have found is, maybe let's say you use Cloudflare on your DNS, what you're using there can actually also block you from being cited at ChatGPT. So kind of go look, they're doing it to protect you from the robot point of view. This could also help you, or stop you from being showing up to different LMs. I think you should do like a 360 on your website. I'm then happy to take a look at it. When Murphy is coming at me, I would definitely look at that for you, and advise you on what you do. I can send you a scan, and see where I would start if I were you. Yeah, struggle is real is very true.
I completely agree with you, Suzanne. It is only with using the LLMs themselves, right, and checking to see how your questions, your keywords, your topics get to influence that to some degree, and see whether or not your site does pop up. That gives you that first-hand experience. And so for this final question, let me direct this over to Kian. We have a question from Jonah, Kian, and Jonah asks, my site is new, and we have prioritized page view growth for months, while RPM steadily declined, assuming it was market driven. Are you saying that the drop may actually be due to our content and traffic quality rather than external factors?
Yeah, great question. So there's multiple, there's multiple factors that matter for this, right? There's a lot of moving parts. It could be the mix of your traffic, what the geos they're coming from. It could be, the subjects of your content. It could be the ad optimization within your ad inventory, right? It depends what demand sources you're running, how optimized you are. Are you running Google Ad Manager? Are you running header bidding? Those are important factors, but that content and definitely the traffic quality, that factors in as well. And traffic quality is a growing factor. Like I said, within the buying platforms, advertisers are getting greater access to invalid traffic stats, right? It's on some of the main platforms, but this is becoming even more available within all the platforms. This is going to be a standard thing in the future. So having high quality traffic, right, which means close to, if not 100% human traffic, like close to 100% human traffic, and using technology to be able to guarantee that that is becoming a big factor that advertisers are caring more about, and they're having the data available to them, and they make blacklisting decisions from that data. So yeah, it definitely does affect it, and traffic quality will affect it even more in the future.
Thank you so much for your comprehensive response there, Kian. We truly appreciate your knowledge, especially when it comes to ad tech and AI as a combination.